uh, we've got the Link's walk cycle. It's not done by any means. We've got a lot of pops and wiggles that we have to clean up. But I wanted to leave that till later until I can get Zelda's animation, and that way we can kind of polish them up together so that we can kind of exaggerate and contrast them with each other. Now, with him, I animated him in a pose-to-pose method, which is close to what I would recommend for anyone who is starting out with animation. It is a much easier approach, easier in the sense that you can make sure that every step of the way you are not breaking the character and running into horrible issues. Let's see, using the first method you suggested, I can't seem to parent constrain the hand to the locator. If it's the IK hand, interesting, parent constrain. Let's see. Can't seem to constrain the hand to the locator. Interesting. Is it coming up with a specific error? And post gave me brain problems. This is the big thing. Like, I suggest post to pose because the majority of people work better with it when they first start out because it forces them to think of the whole pose, but it's not for everyone. For example, this next shot, or for Zelda here, I'm doing this in a layered method. I'm working one control at a time. So you'll notice that the legs are dragging behind. I'm just thinking of the hips right now. I'm just visualizing the hips, how they would move. I'm not thinking of anything else. Then I'm going to add in the legs, get those working underneath her. Then I'll add the body. Then I'll add the arms. So I'm going to add one bit at a time. This works way better for others, or a mixture of the two. There is no one method in animation, and if, for example, there is a workflow that you are suggested and it just makes no sense to you, I've had that happen a few times where someone suggested I do a workflow and it's just like, this makes no sense. It's like, it's just not working. Every step of the way is like this mental gymnastics just to get one pose in. That's not fun. That's not a bad thing. That's normal. So what I really suggest in most cases is just try them. And this goes for everyone. Like, just try the workflow. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. And then what you're doing in the long run is that you're building up this library of workflows that some of them work, some of them don't. And you can jump between them whenever you get to a different project. So for example, I will use pose to pose for certain projects. If I'm animating a quadruped, I'll typically do a layered approach. If I'm doing a really big heavy action shot, I will use a totally different approach, which is basically a proxy approach, where I animate the whole scene using just spheres and like proxy objects, and then I put the rig in place. That way I don't even have to think of the poses. So you can mix and match and even just do sections of an animation in one workflow versus another, but you're always working at your highest speed possible. Let's see. It just seems to stay where I posed it afterwards. Interesting. So do you mean you put the hand there, you constrain it, and then as you move it, it just locks in that position there? Interesting. Oh, does your past video show how you use the animation layer thing to put the walk in? Right now, all I did was add a new animation layer, and I'm just putting the walk on there. That's it. So I just took my base animation, I took all the controls, I made a new layer, and I'm animating my walk layer on that. That's pretty much it. Then later on, I can merge them. So it's basically you're just throwing all your controls into a new layer. This basically duplicates the curves that you're able to animate on. And then I just locked everything else so I don't have those in place, or I can't edit them. And now I'm just animating on this layer. That's pretty much it. I asked a while back if you animated FK arms and hair tails in world space, and you said yes. But I'm wondering if I should do the same for the chest control. This would be especially helpful for characters that have a lot of hip movement, so the pelvis motion doesn't constantly require me to counter animate. It is personal preferences. Really, like, how do you work around this? If I have a character with really high hip motion, that the hips are just swaying constantly, I will tend to try to use the hip control in those cases. That way I'm not constantly having to reanimate the spine to solve that issue. The problem with that is that I also have to then watch certain other areas to make sure that the spine doesn't feel like it is stiff. So it really just depends on how high intensity it is. If it's a lot of motion, I just go to the hip control and then just add a little bit of contrast to the spine and make sure I'm just moving the character enough to counteract what this is doing. Otherwise, I just kind of counter animate the spine. And if you're going really cartoony, then I would start probably using the IK spine. That way I am not having to fight the rig constantly. Oh, the Zelda and Link walk layers, those are empty. I should actually just delete them. Originally I was going to put each character on their own cycle here, but I ended up just animating the both on the same layer. So what I'm going to do is split that layer at the end of this and then make them each their own layer. So in this file right here, it doesn't really matter because this is just the work file. When I create the studio library for this, it'll all be saved out, and then when I go into the actual shot files, that's when I'm going to have these very specific layers. The walk layer, the run layer, all of this. This is mostly just to keep me kind of on track. Also, it allows me to, on the base layer, I had done some animation tests with this, not quite getting the animation all the way. And this is where I also built the default poses. This way I knew whenever I animate a cycle, a walk cycle or a run cycle, I'll create a default pose for the character first. That way I can envision how that character would walk a little bit more easily than just bringing in a rig in their T pose or A pose and then trying to make them walk. This just gives me a little bit more idea of who this person is, this rig. So that's basically how I use the animation layers in here, kind of messily, but mostly just so I can separate things out and make clean cycles, because since I have this default pose on my base layer, if I try to cycle the animation, it won't work, because this pose is going to be cycled through every pose or every step of the way as well. So by making a new layer, this doesn't have that default pose, and now I can create a cycle and the characters can walk forever, even though I've only animated 20 frames. Let's see. So if the hand stays behind, is it not even following the head at all? Or let me ask you this, is the locator following the head control? So you take the locator, put it at the end of the nose, parent it to the head. Is it following along? And Hughes, hello! Or Huds, how's it going? You just drag over the curves and click layer. To add them to a layer, you click and drag, select whatever controls you want, right click on the layer, and then add selected objects. You can also just, if you're creating a new layer, select everything you want and click this button over here. This, the little square with the circle around it, will create a new layer and add everything that you currently have selected into it. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you like the stream. Okay, so the locator follows. So if the locator is following, now you constrain the hand, but the hand isn't following, it just stays behind? Or does the locator stay behind as well? Okay. So let me get into this. So for Zelda here, I am using a layered approach. So right now we're just focusing on the hips, and I'm trying to build in a very specific motion to the hips here, which is one that I don't often use, but I think it's going to give her a little bit more high energy, which is kind of, the hips almost have a little double bounce to them. Normally with like the rotate Z curve, but let's look at Link here. I like to keep it simple just because I find simplicity often works best for these kind of things. But with her, that rotate Z is going to have a little bit of a wave to it. Now the key here is getting that wave to be subtle enough so that it doesn't feel like her hips are hitting things and like bouncing and breaking. That is definitely not what we want. But also making it exaggerated enough that we can actually feel that motion. Okay, the locator stays behind as well. You might have constrained it the wrong direction. So when you are constraining things, so with parenting, you always select the child, the object that will be constrained, then you select the parent. This will create that relationship. But when you're constraining, you do the opposite. You select the master, the object that will follow, or sorry, the object that will lead. So you select the master, the object that will lead, and then you select the slave, the object that will basically be constrained, locked, shackled in place, and will follow the constraint. So the way I remember it is with parenting, a good, and this is the way I was taught it when I first learned many years ago. When you do a parent constraint, or sorry, when you do a parent operation, so just regular parenting, think of who the parent would put first. Well, the parent would put their children first. A good parent would put the child first and then themselves second. Now with a constraint, it is a master-slave relationship. Well, who would the master put first? Well, the master. He's a slave owner. He's not going to be that nice of a guy. So he would put the master first, then the slave, the object that will be shackled in. So this is the way I was taught it, and that really helped me remember, because trying to get that order correct all the time, before that I was always getting it wrong. It was terrible. I always had to do like 2 or 3 attempts to get a parent or a constraint working. Let's see. I think I've got pretty much the hip in place. Now, I do want to point out another thing that I'm doing with this walk. With this walk, I want this to be a walk. I'm kind of thinking video game rules here, but it'll apply to a regular shot as well. I want these characters to have different walks where they're not both stepping at the exact same time, 12 frame, 12 frame, 12 frame, 12 frame contacts. I want this just nice, even, or sorry, I want this variation in between the two of them, but I want them to walk at the exact same speed. This way they could walk side by side and one's not going to start outpacing the other. So I already created the speed of this. Now it's going to be a little off here. It looks like he's catching up at some point. I'll have to double check that. But the speed is pretty much where I need it. So at this point, all I need to do is get the legs to match the speed of these hips here. So let's start working on that. And I'm just going to double check the speed here. And I think I might have some motion on this. No, that's good. Okay. That should be there. So let's just get rid of these, and then I can put them back in afterwards. So basically what I've done is I've just adjusted that speed. So double check his translate Z here. So basically he is going from this value of 30.9 to 166. I want her to have the same thing. Yeah, there we go. So with that, I've pretty much got my speed correct now. I'm just gonna move this over. So at this point, let me just play back, see how the speed is working. There we go. Now we're keeping that constant speed. One of my keys got moved. So let's take a look at this. So we've got the hip. It's not nearly right yet. Enjoying the music. That's awesome. Hopefully it's good music. It is cool to see so many places that are like trying to push like this. Even though everyone's stuck at home, they're making it an experience of some sort. See, I'm wanting to put a more technical shot on my demo reel, but I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to do the basic bar scene, just wanting some ideas. Technical shot. So by technical, do you mean like lots of constraints, characters moving things and handling things? Do you want technical in terms of like a lot of facial animation, that kind of stuff? If so, the thing I would do is look at the rest of your reel and see what you're missing. So for example, are you missing a character handling an object, maybe just like doing this with an object? Maybe you need more weight on the shot, so characters lifting heavy objects. So it can still be technical, but each weight, like maybe they're at the gym and they're taking one dumbbell and moving it over, and that now there's another one, and they're talking as they're doing it, maybe setting up their gym equipment, trying to or maybe it's someone like trying to set up a bow, and he's trying to string it, and he's just trying to pull it and get that on there. So it could be things like that. So more constraints. Okay, in that case, once again, look at your demo reel. Look at what you're missing in terms of body mechanics. The shot, even if they're, let's say it's a bar scene and they're sitting, that is not super interesting because you're missing some mechanics, some body mechanics. So try to have a scene where even though they're just sitting, you're pushing some body mechanics in there. Maybe they're like spinning on their stool, or maybe they sit down next to the other person and then knock into them and go, hey, how's it going? That way you've got this interaction. You're pushing some body mechanics in there. And by looking at your reel first, you can find out what type of body mechanics you can add in to fill the gaps instead of doing something you've already done or something that is similar to something you've already done. The Spider-Man shot and the Collateral Beauty one. Okay. So in that case, yeah, the next thing is whatever shot you have, just try to find actions for the characters to do within the shot. So for example, if you have a dialogue scene, they don't just have to be talking. One guy could be pouring the drink for the other guy if it's a bar. One guy could be cleaning the glasses. They could be stacking the bottles. Maybe it's the end of the shift and they're cleaning up. So they're just grabbing all the glasses. So you know how sometimes people will grab the glasses and like hold 3 or 4 glasses at the same time? Maybe that's what they're doing. They're trying to grab all of these. They all clink together. And then they're trying to like just clean up the bar for the next day and picking up a stool that got knocked over. Things like that. So you're taking the bar scene and now you're changing just the time. Now this is after the rowdy bar versus during. Hey, Adam Wilson, hello. So little things like that can kind of get new ideas versus just sticking with the usual. For example, the bar scene. I've seen a lot of them during my time at Animation Mentor, and it's not a bad scene. It's a very relatable scene, but just by shifting little details, we can make it unique. I'm working on a bike mechanics with a guy who fly with a broomstick like a skateboard. That's awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, something like that. It's like it could just be a skateboard, but by switching it to a broom, now there's these extra little elements that can come in and make it just a little bit more interesting. Or it could be the other way. You've got a witch, and instead of just having her fly in the typical way, you now make this like this really cool broom or a skateboard situation. Okay. So let's get these feet moving. So my next contact frame, or let's get the cycle working first. So I've got the hips moving. I know exactly where they're going to be when I need to create this cycle. So I'm going to go to frame 29. Now this is a song that I grew up with. If it was this kind of music all day, I would be happy. It's so tinny and like just 8-bit or technically 16-bit goodness, but I love it so. Okay. So you'll notice that the feet are not moving quite correctly. They're still just sliding forward. So what I need to do is just a little bit of math. So I want the feet to be the exact same distance from each other compared to the hips. So right now the hip, for example, is at 30.971. This foot is at 0. Okay. So if we take our translate Z, how best to do this? I could take the feet and match them forward up here, and then I could do a little bit of subtraction, or I can find the difference. So 30.971, 186.774. This is where the calculator is helpful. So we've got 186. Normally I wouldn't do this like for regular shots, but because I want to make a perfect cycle that doesn't have any pops or wiggles or the feet start to separate 30 frames later, I want to make this correct. So we've got 30.971, so minus 30.971. Okay, 155.1803. So these feet, I can just take the controls and look at its translate Z, and we'll just add. So take this, I'll do it here, plus equals 155.803. And make sure I get those controls there. So, the key, plus equals interesting. Why are you not moving forward? Let's try one at a time. Interesting. The math is not calculating for me. I wonder if it's because I have an animation layer. Let's try it in the graph editor here. So, plus equals Interesting. I wonder if it's a copy I did. Let's try a simple thing. Plus equals 2. Okay, that worked. It must be because I copied it out of the calculator. So, plus equals 155.803. There we go. Yeah, it didn't like me copying it out of the calculator. But that should get me pretty much the exact position I need. I can also do this for the knee PVs. So, knee PVs, make sure they're not moving. Plus equals 155.803. Now that pose, or those legs at least, are exactly synced up. Yes, those moments when you know it should work. Everything should be correct, and it's just like, why? Why are you picking on me, Maya? There we go. So now we've got the feet kind of in place a little bit. So now we're getting this, which is starting to feel a little bit more like a walk, kind of. So with this, let's go to our next contact. So that's going to be at frame 15. We'll see if I might have to adjust some stuff here to make this work, but we'll see. The main thing is going to be the step length, and the timing of it. And Anton, thank you so much for the follow. Isn't it easier to just have a layer for rude motion and animate the character on place? I am not a fan of treadmill walking. For me personally, this is again where different people have different workflows. I personally hate doing a treadmill walk. I can never get it to look quite right. The feet end up slipping in weird ways. I'm not a fan. Instead, I would rather do a little bit of extra math here, which, like, if it worked, it would have been done in like 2 seconds. Do that extra math, and then I'll add a layer to cancel out that motion and create a treadmill walk from this. But this way, I can always see if the feet are slipping. The problem with a treadmill walk is until the character is actually moving forward, it can be hard to see if the feet are actually properly in place. And for me as well, in the graph editor, a treadmill walk doesn't make sense visually on the graph editor, because when the foot is supposed to be still on the ground, it's actually sliding back because it's on a treadmill, which means the curve is not flat and is just like, my brain doesn't want it to work with it. Whereas this, if I cancel it out, all my curves will still make sense, at least to me. If that makes sense. But that's why you take your root and give it a linear. Yeah, but then your curve still kind of, as the foot's supposed to be still, it's still moving up. And that's the part that really gets me. But the big thing is, if it works for someone else, definitely do it, because it does save a lot of headache in other areas. So, definitely, once again, this just goes into do whatever workflow works best for you. If you feel like pose to pose doesn't work, don't do it. It's not a must-have. Okay, we've got this foot here. This is going to be now stepping. The other foot has to contact out there. So, step. Oops. One of the new features that I love and also hate in Maya, which it is a wonderful new feature, but I'm just so used to not having it, is when you select attributes in your channel box here, when you key things, it'll only key the ones you have selected. So I am constantly just missing some keys as I'm working. I do love it though, because if, for example, I need to key everything except for the translate Z, I can just do that. And there you go. I'm not animating the translate Z or setting another key on that. So it is wonderful. I just keep forgetting about it. There we go. So now we've got our contacts. Nice and simple. Is awful looking when we actually hit splines. The fun of doing the layered method is things will look really weird. She looks like she's skiing, doing some cross-country skiing in a weird way. So let's take a look at the feet here. Now for the feet, I personally love animating feet because they are so simple. They basically just follow very basic rules, and as long as you kind of get certain poses in, it's quick and easy to get them in place. So for example, this is the passing pose. So this foot is just going to be flat. Done. Just get rid of all my keys in here. Boop. Get it flat on the ground. There we go. Foot done. The next one, when I animate feet, I personally like to switch to the main rotations of the foot. So this main control on the whenever the foot's in the air. So I'll just zero that out and start to pose it out. There we go. Now I'm not going to worry about exact positioning because, as you can see, I definitely have to update the hips. They are way too low, which is nice. It's going to add more up and down to my walk, which is going to be really cool. But let's just get that foot passing maybe about there. Okay. Next foot pass. Same thing. So now it's this foot is going to stay flat on the ground, so zero that out. Zero this out. Done. Next foot. Same thing, zero out those controls. And just use the main one to create the passing pose. Something like that. Now we've got that. A little exaggerated, the feet are going out quite a bit, but now we're starting to get that feeling of a walk. Now I can even go a little further with this, and I'm just going to make sure that the contacts are a little faster. And this is the fun thing with layered animation, is I don't have to worry about pose to pose, keeping everything on the same frames anymore. I just put keys where I need them. So in this case, I want about 2 frames for this foot to roll downwards. Like that. Usually I would only do this in 1 frame, but I think for her walk, this is going to feel a little better. So we go there, do that. Let's do the other one over here. So 2 frames. Let's just zero that out. I also want to add a little bit more rotation to that control. That's better. I never like to have the foot just contact flat and then rotate. I try to contact it on the outer edge of the heel, or maybe the inner edge depending on the walk. It just makes the foot feel more alive. So just by adding those 2 keys, now we get kind of a stronger contact with the foot. Let's do the push off of the foot now. We'll start with this one. So now the problem here is that the foot pushes off too soon. Too soon, and then it kind of has this slow lift off here. So I could start really refining that if I wanted to. So let's see here. When exactly do I want this foot to leave the ground? Probably around frame. Let's see. The down pose is on 21. Let's try something different. I usually hold the feet quite a while. I want to see if I can get the foot to come up just a little faster, just to put more energy into her walk here. And this is one of the things that whenever I'm doing little tests like this, where it's not a matter of getting a very precise thing, I'm kind of just making, or not making things up, but I'm trying to exaggerate certain things. I am happy with kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Trying things that I normally wouldn't do and experimenting with them. And this is a fun thing for me because I get to experiment and learn some different techniques for doing something, which is always nice. So now that foot pushes off the ground here. We might adjust how fast it goes up here in a little bit. So right there. Then on this frame, actually, no, let's undo this. I'm going to take this pose. Let's move it 2 frames back. Maybe not have it quite so high. Like that. And then this pose, this is going to be when the foot's pretty much in the air. So retiming it a little bit. No. I keep changing my mind. Might just do 1 frame. Move that back there. Bip. There we go. And then on this is going to be the toes coming forward. That Rayman game was good. For anyone who hasn't played it, if ever you get a chance, I think it's on the Switch now. Rayman Legends was a really good platformer. I highly recommend it. Especially if you're playing 2-player, which for Cameron and I, that's our favorite way of playing games. Is that anytime there's a 2-player option, we're sold on it. So there we go. It comes up, pushes off, and now I'm just going to set a key, 0 out these 2 controls here, and only use this one. And really what I'm doing here is I'm just watching the spacing of the heel. So push off, and maybe a little higher. Get more energy in that walk. Something like that. So once we're done with this and we save the animation, then done, delete, move forward, like how does it blend into running? Basically with layers in Maya, you can adjust the weight of it. My camera is just like, it's right at the bottom here. Let me actually make that a little bigger. So here's the weight. So if I want, I can adjust the weight of this layer, and the more I turn it off, you'll notice that her walk becomes less and less until I can turn that weight off completely, and now she has no walk left. It's just a pose. So what you would do is you would have your walk layer and your run layer, and you would just adjust the weights so that the walk tones down as the run tones up, and they merge together. And as long as you time it to when the foot contacts properly, and you might need to just adjust one layer slightly, retime it so that their foot contact hits on the same frame, and you change the weight there, or on a passing pose, or as long as like whatever you're switching that run matches, you're going to be able to switch it. And then you would just add a few more keys and adjust the animation to blend it naturally so it doesn't look like it's just morphing. So maybe add a little anticipation, a little extra hitch in the run just at that moment, the proper hitch, to make it feel like it's a transition and not just a merge. Yeah, so the run forward is infinite and the walk forward is infinite. And if this was an animation, like for a scene, you don't want them to just walk straight forward, so you could add another animation layer to have them move on a curve. And then you could bake all of that down, so then you could key it all, so that this way you can add some head motion, or you could just even add it on a layer. It all depends on how you want to do it. But basically, there's so many ways that you can make it so that you take this cycle and then you make it not a cycle, which is really cool, because at least you got the main motion of the walk in place, and now all you're doing is doing a few small acting adjustments versus animating a whole walk every single time for every scene that you ever have to do. And Dart, hello! Thank you so much for the follow. So hopefully that makes sense. So walk forward. This is a little too far forward here. Okay. I also want to look at it from the front view. Make sure that as the foot's pushing off, I personally like to exaggerate that feeling of the character pushing off with their big toe. So get that angle to the foot. It's why we have a big toe, is to push our weight forward. So kind of push that in there, and then let's adjust our translate X a little bit. Maybe a little bit further back here, so we kind of arc first before coming around. It's a little bit more like this. And let's not ease into this step. So because I'm doing a layered approach, I can actually start going into quite a bit of, I don't want to call it polish, but refinement in these poses before I get to move on to the next. This way I make sure that the feet are working right away. So here I'm just going to push the foot a little lower. Just before the contact, let's go a little higher, maybe give a little up to that foot. So now we're starting to push the arcing motion of that foot even here. So let's look at our translate Y. And you can see how boring that is right now. Thumbs up. Let's keep going up slightly. Or starting to come down and really swoop down to the ground. So I like to get that foot almost on the ground there. Really exaggerate that arc. And there we go. And push this foot just a little higher here. and then double check that my curves are are looping. So you notice how on this contact that foot is taking a long time to flatten out, and it doesn't flatten out completely. Something is off here. So let's double check that my keys, for one, are copied over exactly. Okay, they weren't. There you go. So that did it. If ever you notice your cycle is like on the next cycle it's not working correctly, just copy and paste the keys. So the way you do this, select frame 1, middle mouse drag to 29 in this case, set a key, that should correct the cycle. Now that foot works. And we get that nice foot motion in there. So if you kind of watch that front view, you can see we've got all of that nice motion, the arc of the foot. It's a little fast in one area. I might adjust that a little bit. I think I'm exaggerating how far sideways I need to go there. A little too much. So let's, yeah, right here. This is too much. Let's push it, but not quite as much as I had before. I can push the rotations as well, but for now, let's kind of keep it at that. And we can do the other foot. So, other foot is more of the same. So we've got the contact in place here. Contact down, done. Okay. That's the easy part. There is a little rotation going on here though. Let's make sure. What is changing here? This one didn't get zeroed out completely. There we go. Perfect. So, contacts the ground. Now, when did that foot start to pick up here? So, contact 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 3 frames. So I just want to time this out correctly. So we've got contact here. So 3 frames later, so frame 4. Let's copy the pose over. Oop. And once again, I'm forgetting to select all my attributes. I always forget that until after I key, and then I remember. And I'm just going to push this foot up higher here. Like so. And then I love this rig because you've got all of these twist attributes for the foot. If I have these in place, I will add them in. That way we don't just get a straight perfect rotation. There's a little bit of an arc in there. Okay. Now on this frame, this stays still as well. And now we start pushing off with the toe. I also need to double check my arc here. Make sure it's not easing. We should have an ease out and then a fast in right there. This will make sure that the cycle works correctly. Then we push up, something like that. And then we zero everything out. Boop. And toes. Boop. And just pose the foot where I want it. Now I could mirror the foot here. So copy the animation from one foot, put it on the other. I'm not a fan of this, especially for walks like this, because I want to make a unique movement to the foot for each foot. That way it doesn't feel like both feet are perfectly mechanically the same. I want to create that feeling of variation between the two. This was another game that Cameron and I grew up with. Magical Weapon Nash. Nash was a jerk. Okay. Keep that motion arcing through. And let's see, let's try not keying it all on ones there. There we go. Not perfect, and oh, I'm getting some sliding. So what that tells me is that I've got a key in the wrong spot. Now, is it here? Yep. So the thing that's causing the sliding isn't the foot, but I accidentally moved the root control, which then is creating a slight slide sideways continually. There we go. Always double check all your controls. So let's see how those feet look. There we go. Not perfect, but they're working. And we're getting the walk moving at the same speed as Link. And this is the important thing that I'm trying to do here. You can see that she is taking longer strides, he is taking shorter strides, but they are still walking at the same speed. This means that if they were side by side, one of them is not going to outpace the other, but they are still different. It's not trying to get exactly the same steps, because that gets boring very quickly when you've got a whole line of people who are all walking together and every one of them is marching on the beat, same beat all the time. You might have one character who's really short and their legs have to go much faster. One character who's got really long legs, maybe he's a giant and he's walking beside everyone else. Their stride length and their stride timing is going to be different, but they still have to walk at the same speed. Now, they don't always do, but in this case, I need them to, because I want them to be able to walk at the same time. So, we've got that. Now, let's go up a little bit more, back to the hips, which are going to be a mess. And we're going to have to rework a lot of this. And when I say a lot, it's not like it's that much. It's just double checking some things. For example, the passing poses here. Making sure that the passing pose, which is on frame 9, actually has a straight knee. And let's see how we can do this. I'm gonna just bring everything up and see what we can get. Because now this is gonna break everything else. So let's take our contacts, bring these down. I wonder if I should just inverse it. How do I want to do this? So this has to come up here. Okay. Got that. Can you show how to save the walk onto a studio library and put it back in the shot? Definitely. There's a few different things I can do here, and I'm just trying to think what the best thing to do would be. So right now I could go off of my passing pose right here. This is kind of my what would be the linchpin, I guess you could say, because that leg has to be straight there, the passing leg, and the hip is in the correct spot, so I know that that works. Right there, body's leaning forward. Right there, character's leaning forward. Those are good. So I know those are working. So I have a few choices. I can lower the contacts. That's going to be the easiest thing to do first. I can adjust the length of the strides, so just bring that back a little bit. That's going a little too fast. Okay. So if I want to reduce the length of the stride, so just bring this back a little bit there. Choices. Wait a second. Something moving. Oh yeah, that's why. How long have I spent on this alone? This probably without the demos and stuff, maybe about half an hour, something like that. The other walk, again, without the demos and without the explanations, maybe we were animating for, or the stream was 4 hours, but I think it was about maybe 2 hours to get the link walk cycle done, somewhere around there, like all told, the actual animation bits. So what do I want to do here? I wonder if I can adjust the hip side to side a little bit. So this is now kind of a balancing act a little bit. And there's no wrong choices in the sense of anything I do, like I could make the stride length shorter, that'll fix the issue. I could adjust the hips, that could fix the issues, which is basically the legs aren't quite reaching the ground. Hey, Artstoff, hello! So none of those choices are bad. It's just going to be a different result. And I want to make sure that whatever result I choose gets me close to what I want the character to feel like. I want a very specific feel to this character. So, just trying to get that in there. That has to go quite a ways down, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, now this goes up. Nine. That's the passing pose, so that is good as long as I get that leg right in there. 21 is my okay. Then passing pose once again. Somewhere around there. Okay. So this is the down pose. So the down here might actually be a little different than the usual downs that I work with. I might change it to something like this. We'll see how this works. Now, this is passing. This would be, yeah, this would just be kind of coming down here. So I'm tweaking the idea of this walk a little bit, and we'll see how that feels. Okay. Hips are going to have to be adjusted. The rotation of them is just too extreme right now, but I think I can push this back up. Get that side to side in the hips a little bit more. Yeah. I think that works. Up. See, is the distance between the legs going to change on what model you're using. Well, this is a walk just for the Zelda rig, so it wouldn't matter which rig I'm using because it's always going to be on this one. Now, if this was a video game animation and you were making a walk cycle that could be applied to different rigs, as long as all the rigs are similar in size, then it would be easy to switch out the animation. Which walk reference you use, Bo? Doing my first Zelda walk, so appropriate the demo. One looks more masculine than the other. Is that the intended? Yes. So one is Link, one is Zelda. So I definitely want one to be more... I'm not really going for masculine and feminine. I'm going for... And it kind of ends up this way, but Link I want kind of just more stoic. More like... He's the main character. He doesn't have that much personality to him. That's kind of one of the things in Zelda games is Link doesn't speak. Because oftentimes Nintendo wants the player to feel like they are the character, and one way of doing that is to have the main character have not no personality but very minimal personality, whereas Zelda, I want her to have a little bit more energy and kind of life to her, so I'm trying to push that element in here. And let me undo this. I just want to try something here. Now, if I was smart, I would have done a buffer curve. That way I could easily undo and save what I had. Okay. I just want to see how the hips feel here. See if I'm losing the element that I wanted to have in those hips. Kind of. Hey Sylvia, how's it going? So... kind of want to keep these points higher because it adds more energy to the walk. We'll see if I end up keeping it, but for now I kind of want it, so see what we can do to make that work. How far would I have to adjust the feet? Not a huge amount. So let's go to the first contact here and just bring the foot back ever so slightly. Okay. Passing post still works. This is going to have to adjust. Now I can also adjust the hips. Right now I have the hips perfectly linear, which is technically not a very natural way to walk. Usually when we walk we will have a little variation in our hips, so I've still got that to play with as well. Okay. Now, can I adjust the length of the stride here? Oops, wrong key. I do this, what's going to end up happening is, yeah, that leg's going to slowly get off course. So I'm just watching the heel right now, making sure it contacts at the right spot. Okay. Let's adjust the body a little bit. So this is going to be on, let's do the passing poses, as it said, and make sure that's on frame 9, I believe, is my other passing pose. So let's just bring those back a little bit. And actually I need to set another key on frame 15, which is my other contact. Let's see how much this affects the posing. If I just bring it back a little bit. Just slightly. You get a little bit of a wave to this, but is that terrible? Something like that. Yeah, that is terrible. She looks like she's just going. That's too much. You can play with it a little bit, but not that much. Let's kind of bring it back just a little. Something like that. Okay. How's that feeling? I just noticed Link's boots are cutting through the ground. Right there. That'll be something I have to fix. Interesting. Wonder what happened. So let's see. Sorry, I went very quiet there. Basically, I'm just trying to think what elements are the most important to preserve and which ones I can now use to adjust this. I want to keep the hips, the up and down, the way they are. That is kind of the important thing right now for me, is keeping that element in there. So I have a few choices. I could adjust the stride length. But I think that might affect my timing. And I don't want that. obviously. So, for example, the stride here, to get this to work, would have to be like right around here. Okay. So that is the stride she would have to take. Then she goes forward. Same thing here. That stride length would have to be about there-ish. Then the problem is that eventually they're not long enough to follow. So I know the stride length, what her legs have to be in order to follow this properly, and I did not undo enough. Okay. So I'm still streaming the same days. So the schedule is here. With all of this like virus stuff that's going on, my work schedule has just gotten busier. So originally I was thinking maybe I would have a chance to do a few more streams and kind of push that part of my schedule, but no. If anything, I need to start trying to decrease my workload quite a bit more, because right now I'm getting way too overworked. I was actually worried I wouldn't be able to stream this morning, just because last night I ended up, after yesterday's stream, I ended up working like right until I went to bed, and then this morning so I don't know if I'll be able to get up and just start streaming. I just felt so wiped, like not just that oh I'm tired kind of thing, no, like I felt drained. And this is actually something I want to talk about at the end of the stream here, which is kind of recognizing those types of symptoms and what to kind of do about them if you do notice that, because it is something that you have to watch out for. We all have to watch out for as animators, as like artists, that feeling of what is the right word? I guess you could say the burnout feeling, when your body just is going, well, I'm done, no more. So yeah, I do want to talk about that later, but I know if I get into that topic right now, I'm just going to get, it's bad enough I'm so easily distracted. If I go into that now, I'm never going to finish the shot. Let's exaggerate that. Rotate Y quite a bit here. Now there's going to be a lot of rotate Y, which is actually not bad. Actually gives a little bit more personality to her walk, which I like. So, like I said, at this point, I'm really just trying to find the attributes that are going to allow me to get the walk the way I want it to feel, without sacrificing the integrity of the shot. And this is basically just a puzzle. That's kind of the way I approach it, is how can I get this to feel right, but without making my shot less than I want it to. And sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes it is very a painful process almost, trying to get this to work. But it is, yeah, it is very important. I never feel strained animating. I feel stressed playing video games and trying to win, but animating actually relaxes me. Yes, this is one of the things, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to, even after working, I wanted to, okay, that rotation is way too much. I did want to animate this morning because I also find animating very relaxing. It just has this kind of nice calming effect, I find. Okay. I love this song. Banjo-Kazooie is probably one of my favorite games of all time. Okay. So the main thing with the rotate Y that I'm feeling right now that it's being exaggerated, is that it's holding too long. Like right here, that rotate Y is still holding when it should be like moving faster through there. Just hold a little bit more here, less at the beginning there. Even here, it should probably just hold a little less. So something a little bit more like that. See how that feels. Animating is very relaxing to me too, but it's hard for me to get into it. Yeah, once you get into animation, it's just, it has that nice, like, I don't know, zen quality to it, where it just, I don't know, you can just get lost into it. Now the key is getting lost in it the right way and not noodling your animation for hours and hours trying to get things to look right. But once you get into it, man, it's nice. Okay. So I'm getting it. I've still got a few little things to tweak. So, for example, the feet are still a little too high there. I can maybe take these, maybe lower it just a little bit. Lower that up and down. That can't move, so that's good. Okay. Let's make sure I don't have an off cycle there. Oh. Push that arc there. Okay. The nice thing is once I get the legs and hips in place, the rest is going to fall into place, or should hopefully fall into place very nicely. The main thing that make the legs kind of a pain is that they're interacting with the ground, and there's kind of these very specific moments that we need to have, or else the legs will stretch or have other issues. Let's play with our rotate Z. We haven't done that yet. That can help push things a lot. I'm animating 2D today, and I feel like I'm more confident drawing instead of moving a 3D rig. That's awesome. I love 2D animation. I need to do it more. Okay. So her hips go into the down pose here. That's when they really drop. Is this SimCity? Yes, it is. Cameron and I loved SimCity. Especially SimCity 4. There's just something about it. Something very relaxing. See if I can drop this just a little bit more. Okay. A few other areas that I can kind of push to keep these feet on the ground is how the heels push off the ground. That'll help a lot. I'm kind of trying to save that for last though, just because I want to see if I can get the rest in place. But I think I've pretty much pushed everything else as much as I can. Let's see. And Amin, thank you so much for the follow. So let's take this and just crank that up. Now I'm just, okay, yeah, so I still have to crank that up too high for my liking before it kind of feels natural. So actually, let's try this. Let's push that there, and then here, let's start rotating it on the toes just a little bit. That way we get a little bit more of a push off. How much will I have to adjust here? Okay, up there. We're getting a little separation right there. This is the passing pose, so that's nice and easy. I just have to lower the hips. Let's double check the other passing pose. Make sure that foot is also on the ground. There we go. Okay, so that's working now. Now I just have to get the spacing right. And it is technically pushing the toes further than they would, I guess you could say, normally go, but it is exaggerating. And what I'm doing by exaggerating this is creating the feeling of a character pushing themselves forward. So it is technically going to be like naturally too high. Well, even then, it's not actually that high. If you actually watch the amount people's toes move, it can be extreme at times. I didn't get my translate Y on the other foot done. There's a little lift in the foot there. Let's double check this. There we go. Let's get the other foot in place here. Get that rotation in place. Then this is going to be 1 frame sooner. Why does this sound familiar? What is it? Oh, Crash Bandicoot. Okay, that's why. That explains it. Right there. So all I need to do is add a little toe rotation here, like that. Make sure it's zeroed out here. There we go. Let's take a look at this. Make sure the feet are moving correctly. Yep. There's a few little pops and wiggles. At this point, that is just minor polish notes. But the rest works. Okay. Yay, finally. It took a while, but now we're in a good spot to just kind of keep going with this. Let's see. There we go. Let me fix that translate Y of that foot. It's gonna bother me now that I've noticed it. So translate Y, yeah, right there. It just kind of flattens out. Ugh. Push that up a little bit more. Then make sure it swoops the ground. Doesn't kick through the ground. That we definitely don't want. There we go. Oop, I've still got a little bit of a slide right there. Let me double check that. Yeah, right there. That might be my translate dead. There we go. Let's just add another in between right here and just lower that enough that we get this to work. Okay, and I do want to add one more here as well. This is going to help just push that weight into that foot a little bit more. Okay, lots of knee pops. I'm not worried about those. Knee pops are going to be fixed when we get into all the polishing and refining. As long as the feet are working, I've got the strides working in here, then that is important and good. There we go. No, I can't. Oh wait. You can animate frame by frame in 3D if you want. You can just key everything and set animations. Yeah, I've done that a few times where it's just animate on ones and get the animation you want. Now, the problem with that is it's nice because you have full control, but then the problem is that you are wasting what Maya is good at, which is creating in-betweens. So I tend to only try to use that for moments that Maya is not responding to what I want it to do. And Gimbal, hello! How's it going? I have not had a drink. I should definitely drink. That helps. Okay. So we've got the hips in place. Close enough. There's some hitches in there. But right now, I think I can start to move on to the spine and get that in place. Let's see. So for the spine, I'm just going to select all the controls, like so. And let's set our range here, so it'll be frame 29. So there we go. And let's set our first pose here. Now for this, the main thing I want is for her to kind of stand up straight-ish. And I also want a little bit of contrapposto in the hips. So let's actually, to really push this, I'm going to go to my passing poses, because that's where the hips are really exaggerated. I'm going to push that as well. So that was frame 9 and frame 23, I believe. This will give me kind of my guideposts of how far I want this to go. And this is messy, so let's see if I can buffer these curves. That cleans it up a little bit. Okay. I don't need to see the buffer curves right now. Oh wait, those aren't the buffer curves. Those are the other layers. That's fine. Let's see, we are doing 24 frames per second. 24. Okay, that's a little too much. So we get that. Our other contact is frame 15. So let's get that in place. Okay. Let's also get the rotations in place too. So her leg is going forward there. Should be rotated this way. Let's see. This should be the opposite as well. So basically I'm just adding contrast. Having the shoulders contrast what the legs are doing instead of right now where they're just following along. This will help give that nice twist to the body and the nice kind of exaggeration. I'll just copy that over to the end clip. There we go. So how do you decide when you want to break down the walk into contact, pass, etc. without reference? You just have to kind of have an idea of what you want. You want it to fast walk. Well, a fast walk is going to be every 6 frames per contact. A normal speed for a walk might be every 12 frames. A slower leisurely walk maybe 18 frames per contact. And then you can break up. Like, do you want the down to happen right after the contact? Should the down happen slowly after the contact? All of that depends on what attitude you're trying to go for with the walk. So for example, a normal walk, for example, a vanilla walk is 12 frames per step. You have your contact, then 3 frames later you're down, 3 frames later you're passing, 3 frames later you're up. It's very even. With this, it's contact, and then I've got, I think it's 6 frames to the down, 2 frames to the passing, 6 frames to the next contact, which is also the up. So it's contact up, they're the same thing, then down, passing, contact up, down, passing, contact up, and it's 626, 626. And that's just from kind of, I shot some super quick reference just to get some timing for the walk, and then exaggerated it from my timing, because in my reference, a lot of it kind of started ending up being very even, and I want to keep that exaggeration in there. Okay, so let's see how those shoulders are working. Okay, there's a wiggle in there somewhere. Definitely gonna have to get that out. Okay, so let's actually look at just my rotations here. Rotate Y, I can get rid of. This is kind of forward back, and right now I can layer that in later, but it's just going to add some needless experiments. Experiment 626. Actually, yeah, that's right. It is experiment 626. How did I not realize this? It's the stitch walk. That's awesome. So let's get that cycle working. That might be what we were noticing before. That kind of wiggle and shimmy. And then let's kind of push the spacing here. Okay. Interesting. Still something in there. I wonder if I grabbed another control that I shouldn't have. No. That and that are all good. Oh, wait, did I not clean all 3 of these up at the same time? I might not have. That would explain it. Man, I love Pokemon. I only ever played the first one, really. But there's just something about it. I did play Cameron and I played Gold and Silver a little bit, but not enough to properly say we played it. It was mostly the animation or the cartoon series that we grew up with. Nice. Good Smash game is always fun. And Forging Gods, that is an awesome username. Those were good games. There we go. Now we've got no more pop. Now there is that shake in the hips, which is now going to cause a lot of problems. So this is a good indication of when I might not use the main hip control. So I'm using the cog for my rotation Z right now. And because I'm adding a little shake to it, what that is going to do is force me to counter animate that spine to match that. And that could be a nightmare. I could run into a lot of issues just trying to avoid little pops and wiggles. Normally, that's fine. Like, it's simple, just simple counter animation. Now, I might end up fighting this more than I want. So, what I can try is I'm going to copy this curve here from the rotate Z on the hips. I buffered it, so I saved a copy as well. And now I'm just going to zero it out. So now I take all that rotation out. Next, I'm going to take my hip control. This is the independent hip control. Go to my rotate Z, and I'm going to paste that in, that curve. So, clipboard, good. Time offset, good. And I want to preserve, yeah. There we go. So we copied that over. Let's just clean up the tangents here. Like this. And now we should have that hip motion in there. That rotation. But without that the chest reacting to it. Now what this also does is it makes our chest rotation, because we were using it to counter things, is going to be way too far. She looks like she's just swaying now. So let's tone that down. See how that feels. There we go. So now we've got that hip motion that we had before. That rotate Y is very robotic. I'm going to have to adjust that. Okay. We've got that. Okay. Now, this is where we also run into another problem. When we rotate the the cog, that naturally gives some motion to the neck that is not naturally, or let me put it this way, that doesn't come in when we just use the hip control. So now if you look at the side to side of her body, look at the shoulders. See how mechanical they feel? It's just kind of like chunk, 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 chunk. That's because we're now missing some extra rotation that the cog would have given. So we're going to have to try and work that back into the body. So let's see what we can do here. So part of it is going to be adding a little drag to the spine. Now this drag, again, when we have the cog in place, kind of gets created naturally. But because we don't have that, we're going to have to add that in. The cog is the center of gravity, which is often or sometimes called the root hip. There's a lot of different names for controls. So let's add kind of that in place. Let's make sure, actually, let's go to the front view. This is going to be easier to see. Okay. So I want, oh, interesting. Something is off with my curves here. So let's copy that over, except for the translate Z. Good. Take that hip control, make sure that is also looping. Oh, no wonder it's not looping. Am I missing a key? This should be on frame 29. That would explain a lot. Let me try recopying it over, just to double check. So edit, paste. Interesting. Oh no, that is right. Yeah, I did want that little extra bit. For some reason I thought it was a little glitch in there, but no, that is good. Yay. Okay, so that should fix that. Okay. Let's get that spine in place. So like the spine controls, and this is the spine. Oh, this is a translation for the spine. Okay. Let's take all this. I don't think any of the rigs I have that cog thinning. As long as the root is the one that's around the hips. The cog, and it's sometimes called the root, is the same thing. You just have to be careful as long as it's not the root down here. So this is sometimes called the global control, the layout control. Sometimes it's called the root control. Every rig is different naming conventions. So if it's the main one that affects the whole like upper chest, that would be what I would typically call the cog control, the center of gravity control, which oftentimes is used as a hip control. Okay. So let's take a look at this here. Zero this out too. Actually, no. I did want to have a little bit of a motion in there. Okay. So rotate X, rotate Z. Let's definitely clean that up. So what's going on here? So let's do the rotate Z first. This is going to be the side to side of the body. I could probably tone down how far the body is going actually. So let's actually select this as well. Translate X of the cog. There we go. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, that's a lot of side to side motion. Bring that down. I'm gonna go maybe halfway. See how that feels. I think that already helps. Maybe a little bit more, just to exaggerate. Maybe somewhere around there. Okay. Got that. The rotate Y is still very mechanical. I'm going to be changing that probably next. But, or sorry, this rotation of the chest, which I believe is the rotate X on this rig. So let's take a look at these. So this is the side to side motion. So she comes in, we hit the passing pose. Let's get that exactly where I want it to be. Hips are down on that side. But I kind of want to exaggerate that rotation this way. So something like this. Okay. Now, as she tilts over, I've decided to remove one of the cameras of my shot, so I'm replacing the second camera with the one you suggested me to do yesterday in the Q&A. Oh, and I'm so glad that it works better. Yay! That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing that sequence. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So, on this frame, this is the contact. So on the contact, probably going to be straight-ish. Same thing as these. Okay. Contact. Let's add another key here. And how do I want this to behave? Sounds a little Star Warsy. Nice. Or actually, let me simplify this. So we've got there. I wonder if I can drag this back on the contact. Yeah, maybe get a little exaggeration in there. So we kind of get a little drag on that body. Just a little. Yeah, I think that feels pretty good. That rotate Y is definitely throwing things off here. But I think this is not bad. If anything, what I can do is maybe exaggerate this so that the peak is just a little after. So we kind of do this. Just to break things up a little bit. Yeah, I think that works. Maybe a little too much. She feels like she's swaying. Let's take the curves. Actually, I think it was probably better before. Let's bring that back down. Simplify it. And then comes over. Do just a little less in there. Yeah, something like that. Now, another thing that's going to make this look very strange is the fact that there's no shoulder motion right now. Shoulders are what really make a walk feel like a walk. For example, if I just do this, all I'm doing is rotating my body. It doesn't look very much like a walk. But as soon as I do this, now it feels like the character is walking. The same rotation of the body, but just adding those shoulders in. It breaks it up from just doing this. Let's see. So what I'm trying to think right now is I want to kind of stabilize the neck a little bit more. And I'm just trying to think what control will give me that ability. I could stabilize it with the lower spine, because the lower spine does kind of move the most. But then I might start ending up twisting the spine a little too much. Which I don't want to do. Let's see. Let's fix the rotate Y and then we'll come back to that. So, or sorry, rotate X on this rig. So the rotate X right now is feeling very, I guess, mechanical. Now, if I wanted to, just to simplify things, I don't want to do this. I could take my rotate Y, this is the side of the hips, from this control as well, copy it onto the hip control. This way the spine, the upper back doesn't get influenced by these ones as well. I could do that. Let's actually do that. We'll have Link animated one way and Zelda animated a different way. This way we can just kind of see how it works differently. So let's edit, copy that. I don't normally animate this way, but it's going to be a fun experiment. So zero that out. Take this control here, find my rotate X in this case. Let's paste that in there. Okay. Now, the whole spine is going to be off now because there's going to be way too much rotation going on. She's going to really have some strides here. So let's take that rotate X. Once again, go to my, or this is going to be my contact where we'll see the most extreme. And just scale that down. Way down. I can probably shorten this cycle. There we go. Let's tone that up just a little bit more. We can see it. That's already feeling much better. It gets rid of that robotic feeling that we were getting before. Okay, let's just bump it up quite a bit. Too much. I want to feel it in there, so I want to feel that twist in the body, but not so much that it feels like she's strutting and doing that. And Pumduter, thanks so much for the follow. So we've got that. There we go. Now the walk is still feeling stiff. We need to add some overlap front to back, or else it just feels like the character is sliding. I think I can also push the up and down on her walk a little bit more. It's kind of feeling a little floaty. I can't really push the ups too much, but I can push the downs quite a bit, hopefully. So let's try that super quick. So the downs right now are right here. And the problem is right now they're just 2 frames apart from the passing pose, which has to have a certain height to it. So I think I'm just going to retime this ever so slightly. Maybe 1 frame back. Just so I can push that down pose quite a bit more. Maybe let's try 2 frames back. This is going to give enough time for the legs to get back up to where they need to go. Let me make sure I've got my Y select there. Okay. So this is going to make sure I have enough time to get the hips back up into the passing pose without losing the motion that I had. And then let's take this key, and just kind of drag that down a little bit more. Something a little bit more like this. Exaggerate that spacing. We'll see how this feels. Yeah, that already helps. It needs a little bit more, I guess you could say, hang time in there. Just a tiny bit. The problem right now is it comes down and then it just kind of bounces back out, which is going to make her feel like she is, well, bouncy. So I'm going to add another key in here and in here just to hold that down a little longer. So still going to have a little pop of energy in there, but hopefully it's going to soften that down. Yeah, something like that. So exaggerating that motion ever so slightly. And just add a little bit of up and down adds a lot. So now, kind of looking at the top of her head, instead of feeling like she's floating along, kind of just ghosting, we now have a little offset in there. Not much, but once we add a little rotate X as well, some forward rocking, it's going to have a nice overlap versus just kind of doing this, which would just look mechanical. One of the nice things, like, how to put this, if you're ever feeling something looks mechanical in your shot, but your curves look great, everything looks great, oftentimes what it needs is a layer of something. So for example, let's say you have a motion like this, forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. This looks mechanical. It can be interesting, but it's like the spacing of it could be interesting, but it's still going to look mechanical. But if you add a little up and down, ooh, something interesting. If you add a little rotation to it as well, now it starts to feel a little bit more organic versus just this. So that's what I'm doing with the up and down. By having that up and down, it's adding that little extra layer, so that when I add the rest, it's going to just add that depth to it versus just one rotation. Okay. That foot moves too fast right there. It's pointing up too high here. I can't look at the feet, or else I'll start nitpicking them. I'm working on the spine. Okay. Look at how she moves from the front. She definitely has a lot of sway in her shoulders, which I'm not opposed to, but it does, I don't know. So I'm caught between the two. I like the sway because it makes her feel a little bit more fun and a little bit more lighthearted, but at the same time it makes her feel like she's swaying quite a bit. So let's see. Do I want to adjust it? I also want the angle on the spine as well, or the shoulders as well. So caught between a rock and a hard place. So what I can do is I could layer in, now that I don't have the rotate Z on this control, I could layer in a kind of contrast element to this to keep the body straighter, but that's going to affect the hips. I don't want that. So I could try to deal with the spine. Yeah. Let's see. Well, I might have to just do it with the translates. So this is the thing with the cog control. If you're using the cog to add the rotations in, when you adjust the spine, you get that natural motion in the neck to keep it steady. Without that, you run into this swaying of the body or the over stiffness of the body, because in order to keep the neck still, you just keep the body from moving, which is not good, because then you just kind of get this boring body that doesn't do anything. So I want to have that, but I also need to keep the neck somewhat centered. So I could try to do that with the hips, but that'll throw my character out of balance. Choices. I do want to adjust my rotations though. So let's take those again. Rotate Z. And just kind of looking at this, I want to add in a little offset here. Right through here. Too much. I wonder if I can just take my curve and offset it a couple of frames. There we go. That's kind of what I want. Just a little overlap between the shoulders and the hips. So you kind of feel the shoulders still dragging back as the hips start going over the other way. This is a nice thing with layered animation, is you can just start offsetting your curves whenever. This is a nice song. Grandia. Okay, this is actually feeling better. So I'm just offsetting that curve quite a bit to keep that neck centered a little bit more. So now instead of the character feeling like they're doing this, now they're kind of doing this, where their neck is trying to stay in the center. It gives a little bit more of a snake-like effect, I guess you could say. but it avoids the body feeling like it is just being twisted and swaying randomly. Let's see. Just trying to figure out the right amount here. If I go too far, it'll look like she is just kind of... I don't know what the right word would be. Actually looks pretty good. So now the neck is staying centered a little bit more, and she's not just swaying. So kind of, let's actually, oops, not that button. Let's buffer that curve and put it back to where it was, so we can kind of see the difference. And let's just do 28 frames here. So this will buffer faster. So you can see how right now she kind of feels like she's doing this as she's walking, which is not bad, but it makes a walk that feels swayy. But by switching it, now there's still that sway. She's still moving side to side, but it's not just moving with the hips. It's very subtle, but it's there. Oh, take care, Jukes. 2:30 in the morning. Oh, geez. Oh, I don't think there's a stream tomorrow. It's on, or actually, yeah, for you it would be tomorrow because you're already on Sunday. Yeah, so, yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the stream. Definitely get some sleep. Like 2:30, man. I admire the dedication. Thank you so much for staying up so long for this. And yeah, if you do have any other questions on your demo reel, feel free to message me anytime. Okay, so I think I've got the spine pretty much done. Now I do want to see how this kind of affects the side view, because it's not going to be much, but we'll have some change in there. Okay, there we go. So at this point, I'm pretty much good on the whole body, the legs, all of that. Now I do want to adjust the arms. So the way I kind of envision this, and we'll see if it works out, is that by default she kind of has this stance where she holds her hands when she's just kind of bored, or not bored, but like standing there. It's kind of how like some people will automatically put their hands in their pockets, others will cross their arms. There's this kind of natural, comfortable position that your body settles into. And kind of looking at a lot of Zelda artwork, she has this... Oh, I should take a drink. She has this just natural motion where she holds her hands based on a lot of the artwork I've seen of like official artwork of Zelda. Now this doesn't mean she has to walk like this. It just means that this is her natural default stance. Whereas Link would probably just be a little bit more neutral, almost as if he's ready to go for his sword at any time. So this way I can kind of add a little bit of that. Yes, she was a princess. She was taught how to walk and to do all of this stuff in this kind of regal way. And like some people, they hold their hands like this because they're taught like that's the proper way to hold your hands. But now she's got this excitement of going on an adventure, which holding your hands like that does not show excitement. Or like, however she's got her hands, that's not going to show excitement. So I want to change that. So let's go through here and exaggerate this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to animate the arms. When I'm animating these, I do also make sure to animate the clavicles. But the thing is, the clavicles will move where the arms go. So I don't want to have too much motion in the clavicles just yet. because if I make a change in the arms, it's all gonna go away anyway. So let's kind of get a default hand pose in here. Just kind of basic hand pose. Now, this is where I can really try to exaggerate certain elements of the scene, or sorry, not of the scene, of the pose. So for example, I want this relaxed hand pose, a little tighter than normal, so it's not like just totally limp. She's excited, so her hand is going to be tense. But I can try to add a little bit more, I guess, I don't even know what the right word would be, grace to this pose. Kind of keeping in mind again that she would have been, well, she's a princess. So kind of keeping the hands a little bit more dainty. So instead of just like this or like a fist, having that kind of pinky come up a little bit. Kind of, if you ever study ballet, there's this kind of pose like this with the pinky that doesn't go past the index. So it's not doing this, or else you get that motion. Yeah, princess. But just this kind of extra curve to the hand. So I'm going to see if I can add a little element of that. Hey, Erix, hey, how's it going? I hope you're having a great day. Oh, that's awesome. No, I'm not a bot. That's awesome that you're doing that. That's cool. It's like a journey of pleasantries. I love that. Journey of good thoughts. That is so cool. Well, I don't know how long you're stopping by, but thank you so much, and definitely spread that good cheer, because so many people need it right now, and that is a good thing to do. So, huge props for that. Let's see. Now these fingers need to go a little lower. Whoop! Don't select the hip. Let's see. I've never played Rise Star, but I love the music in it. Every time it kind of comes up on the radio here, it's always just nice. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of trying to figure out what angles I want. Do I want the hand to be a little bit more closed, a little bit more open? Just experimenting a little bit. Maybe a little more curve in this and this one. I might end up bringing the pinky down a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe a little bit of an extra bend in there. Let's get that thumb in a little bit more of a neutral pose. There you go. Now, if I wanted to, and this is the fun part about having, you know, I should save. I haven't saved yet today. Oh. Just the thought of potentially losing everything. Ugh. So because I have Animbot, I can try this. Just, hey, mirror the pose onto the other hand, and voila, we've got the other pose in here. Now, I can change this a little bit so that they're not just the exact same thing. So this hand, I might bring the finger in a little bit more. This one too. And at least it gets me a start. Now, if you don't have Animbot, you can use Studio Library to do the same thing. Which it's nice to be able to mirror poses and get that quick work done. Right. So just a little different. Okay. So I think I want that arm to be a little bit further out. Let's straighten that out. So Link is kind of walking, and Akavado, thank you so much. Or Akavotato. That's an awesome username. Akavotato. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the follow. So with Link's arms, one thing I'm doing is I'm continually keeping them with a slight bend. What this does is it gives him more of a relaxed state. When we're in a relaxed state, our arms don't straighten. They keep a slight bend because of the tendons and the muscles. Just that's the relaxed state. For her, I want a little bit more energy in this, so I'm going to let her arm straighten out quite a bit more. Now, the other arm here is going to come forward. And let me actually zero out the clavicles here, so I'm not getting any of that causing issues. So something along these lines. So I want wide arm swings for her. Okay. So frame 9. What I can do, let's see if this works, is I want the opposite because, or sorry, not frame 9, frame 15. This is the opposite. Let me actually copy frame 1 to frame 29. This will create our cycle. And then on frame 15, I want the opposite. So let's try that mirror pose again. Nope. Well, actually it did work. Yay. So now we have that. Now, once again, I don't want this to be perfectly symmetrical and mathematical, so I will add some variation. This is the same thing, like if ever you're using a tween machine or something, some tween tool, just add some variation. It's going to make things so much nicer. Don't just mirror done. So we've got that. Okay. So let's check how this is working here. So we've got that. Looks kind of weird. Okay. So let's break this down. Let's go to... How do I want to break this down? Let's go to the passing pose at least. We should at least have that pose in place properly. So that will be frame 9, frame 23. I have all my poses written down, the timing of it all on my other monitor here. It's something I highly recommend, even if you're kind of making a shot up on your own. Once you kind of figure out where your poses are, write them down. That way you can easily kind of just look at it and go, oh yeah, I've got this pose here, this pose here, this pose here. Versus looking at your timeline going, okay, which one was it again? My down was on this, but then my passing was it. And it just gets very confusing. Okay. So... how is this going to be? So I think I want to exaggerate this. Normally, on a kind of vanilla walk, if this leg is passing forward, this arm would be already back because they're doing the opposites. In this case, I kind of want to exaggerate this. I want to keep this arm almost a little more forward. Kind of push that excitement in her, as the other one is just a little bit further back. Now, actually, let me double check there. Yeah, so it's just dragging the arms even more. And I think this would be a little bit further forward here. Okay. I'll focus on the wrists afterwards once I get the main arm motion, because they're basically gonna overlap in there. So this is gonna be frame 9, and then let's mirror it. There we go. So now we get this. And already, just by adding those in-betweens, we're starting to get that sway in the arms. It's mechanical and horrible. Do you do feedback? Yes, I do. Normally, when I'm doing these streams, I'm either working on like my own shot or doing demos, but I'm always happy to do to give feedback to anyone who wants it. Let me just, if you want to post a link, feel free. I'm just going to get these arms kind of a little bit more tied down, and then we can go into some feedback. So let's go. How long do I want these arms to hold here? Let's take a look here. Okay, let's key that. Still work in progress. Awesome. So here I'm gonna, instead of having the arm just start swaying forward right away, I'm going to have it actually move backwards a little bit more. So as the arm is coming through, it's excuse me, it's swaying out, and then it's coming in this way, but it's still going backwards. So this is what I was talking about earlier on layering your work. Instead of keeping this just like one axis, or everything changes direction at the same time, one axis is changing direction while the others continue. What this does is it pushes this offset in things, this kind of natural what would be the right word, a bit of a natural, it's not offset, that's not the word I'm looking for, dynamism. Like it makes everything feel just a little bit more dynamic as it's coming through. Okay, so let's take this. I'm kind of abusing the mirror tool here, but it's going to make my workflow a little faster. So yeah, that's fine. So from frame 1, this will be on frame 19. Let's just go bip, mirror. And I think that's right. Nope, wrong frame. Let's see. Undo. Yeah, I got the wrong frame there. So this is contact, and 4 frames later. No, that should have been right. Contact, 4 frames later. Oh wait, is it because I didn't copy the pose? Oh, it's not mirroring, that's why. Oh well. If it's not mirroring, then I just have to do it the old-fashioned way. Which is actually, it's better. It forces me to try and think of this myself and not let the tool dictate what happens. So by adding those, now we have just a little bit more of a hold in those arms. They're swinging a little quickly, but we just need a little bit more of a breakdown. Let's see, swing forward. This elbow could probably be a little straighter here as it swings forward. Same thing here. Okay, good. It's straight as it swings forward, and then it starts to bend. It was just the headspace you needed. Yeah, the headspace was the main thing that I kind of noticed was not there. And then this is kind of just a personal thing. If there were like toe controls that even when the foot is in the air, so for example here, if I could just take like a toe control and just animate the toes, move them up and down. This way, as you get like the foot contacts, you can just add a little bit of overlap with the toe. That's a very like minor control though. Now I should mention, for anyone who doesn't know, Artstoff is the person who created both of these amazing rigs, which are free. Definitely check them out if you haven't. There's the link. They are totally free, although I definitely recommend dropping something in the tip jar because they are worth it. These are amazing rigs, so much fun to use. And he's constantly updating them and making them better and better and better, which is like so cool. He also has an amazing Twitch channel, so definitely click on his name and you can follow him. He's got some good stuff. So let's see, got that. Okay. Yeah, so she's getting there. The main thing I'm noticing is I want to add a little bit more forward energy. Her head just kind of feels like it's sliding forward. This is also the Translate Z. I want to add a little bit of variation in there. Right now it's kind of mathematically almost perfect, which I'm not a fan of. It'll also help when I add a little bit of sway to the head. Right now it's kind of locked in place. But we're focusing on the arms right now. So you kind of need a breakdown right here, approximately frame 12. Let's do that. Boop, boop, boop. Doot, doot, doot. Set a key. This will also be it's going to be a breakdown 26, I believe. Let's see. Contact on 15. There. Oh wait, this pose in the right spot. Yeah, 23 and 9. Oh wait, this arm pose is not in the right spot. It's on frame 30. It should be 29. Okay, that'll help things. If I left that like I had, my cycle would have been broken. Let's make sure those fingers... Okay, yeah. Nothing else is on frame 30. Good. Phew. That would have been horrible. Let's see. Is it possible to animate walk cycle arms with minor? Oh, with IK? Yeah, you can definitely do that. You just have to be careful that you don't get the IK feel to it, which is when the arms start to just kind of slide across the screen. You have to build in the arcs yourself. It's totally doable. I know a lot of animators who actually prefer animating that way. They prefer using the IK, just less to deal with in terms of controls. For me, I personally prefer FK because you automatically get these natural rotations of the arm. It moves the way arms move in real life. So I have to do less kind of work trying to make it feel natural, if that makes sense. It just works. Yeah, I'll have to fix all the tangents here and later. Right now, I'm just worried about, or focused on getting these poses reading correctly. Let's see, maybe pull this back a little bit more. Maybe this back up a little bit more as well. Okay. You know, I've never really watched a James Bond film. I just realized, like, I don't think I've ever seen a James Bond film from end to end. I've seen bits of a lot of them, at least the newer ones, but never the whole thing. I think part of that is because I always had a misconception of what James Bond was about. I always imagined it was more like Mission Impossible, where you've got this like super sleuth that no one knows and he's a ghost. And then when I first watched a James Bond film, everyone knows who he is and he gets caught like every 5 minutes. Which kind of just seemed odd to me for what was supposed to be like the world's best spy. So like growing up, it was always like, but shouldn't I just watch, like, I'd rather watch Mission Impossible. They know what they're doing. I just didn't have that concept of that's the whole point of the film. It's supposed to be more of an action film, not a like spy novel kind of thing. Okay, there's a little bit of a hit right here. So yeah, right there. That's definitely it. Maybe not quite so much. Okay. trying to push the spacing on this to be just a little bit more visually interesting. There we go. Now the arms are going to look very weird because I don't have the clavicles in here yet. Okay, this elbow is locking up too much here. So let's kind of push that. Exaggerate that swing. That's better. You know, just as an experiment, I'm gonna... No. I was gonna turn world space, or put the head back into local space. That way it would follow the body, but I kind of want to add a little extra beat to the head to show the extra happiness in there. Okay. Let's do the other arm now. So, just super quick, building up, and then I will take a look at that link. So, just getting through this. Okay, so we're still getting a little bit of that, yeah, right there. This kind of hitch right in there. So I could try to copy the curves over, but I'm instead going to see if I can make it its own curve. Just to see how we can exaggerate this a little bit more. Plus she's got that pouch on that side, which means her arm's gonna have to swing out a lot more. Even when it comes back, it'll have to come out a little bit more than this. Okay. So I'm just watching, making sure it's not colliding. You want to... Yeah, that's gonna have to go way out. So this is going to be a nice little breakup of the action just by having that pouch in there. It's actually very nice because it forces me to add variation in the arms. Okay. So let's look at the rotate here. Well, part of it is feeling a little odd. I think it's right around here. I'll probably push that a little bit more. Hold that in place a little longer. Okay. And then rotate Y I haven't touched yet. No, that's boring. Let's make that a little bit more interesting. Whenever I can, I love to try and push my curves to just be a little bit more visually interesting. Avoid that kind of just straight, even, like right here. That's just a straight in between. That's boring. or right here, how the elbow just doesn't move. That's not interesting to me. Should be some change, some build up. Let's add a little bit more drag to the elbow here. Let's see how that feels. There we go. It's got a little bit of a spin right here. That's the wrong rotation in the arm there. It should, as it comes through, be a little further out. Stay out, then come in, and like so. Let's try pushing it this way. It comes up and then circles around. From here, I could probably push it a little bit more. Get that nice overlap. And Sarah, thank you so much for the follow. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that's better. A little bit too much of a straight line right through here. Wonder if I can push this even more. Something a little bit more like that. Let's see how that feels. Yeah, I think that works. I can adjust it later. But now we've got the arm swings. Let's add the clavicles. But before we do that, save, and I'm going to check out this other shot here. So let me scroll up here. So from Shadow Dingus. Oh, it looks like the link is set to private here. You might need to set it to a public link. Let me move that over to the side here. So if you can switch it to a public link, I can take a look at it. Done? Perfect. Let me refresh. If that'll work. It did. Perfect. So let's take a look at this. Nice. I like this, the blurs. That's really cool. Awesome. So, I think all of this is working very well. Very nice. Got a nice anticipation in the arm here. So the first thing I would probably recommend, this is very small, but I would try to exaggerate the heel pushing off the ground here. Right now it kind of feels like it slides a little bit, which is not bad, but if you add just kind of a little push, it'll give the feeling of the heel is almost kicking the foot up or like jumping slightly to get the weight off the foot so it can slide across the ground versus just slipping forward. And this is not a huge amount, like don't push it so that it's like this. That's too high. But just a little exaggeration in there. Then she comes down here. As she comes down here, this foot, you could push that heel a little bit more to have it feel like it's dragging before kind of ending into this position. It kind of feels a little stiff. Even here. This feels like it could be pushed a little bit more to push that weight in there. Now I'm exaggerating this, but just a little bit higher. Okay. Now I'm assuming this is kind of like a video game attack, so the camera angle doesn't matter too much. But one thing I would watch out for, if this is going to be your final camera angle, just don't let this sword point directly towards the camera. So don't do this, where the sword is pointing straight at, because we lose the tracking of the sword. Instead, have it up or down slightly, and then you'll get a better silhouette, and it'll allow the audience to see it more clearly. I'd also just change the color of the ground so that the sword swings show up more clearly. Same thing here. Watch that sword silhouette. Now here, if she's doing a little jump here, let the hips lead this action a little bit more. Her hips right now are kind of slowly moving up, and then the feet jump underneath. Anticipate with the hips down, and then pop them up. Like, really let the hips drive this action forward, and then the feet come up. That's going to get you a lot of weight in there, and really give that that whole body connected into that jump. And then when she lands here, try to get the feet to contact a little sooner, and then let the hips settle. Right now it kind of feels like everything slides into place. The hips and the feet all kind of end at the same time. Let the feet settle first, as the hip comes down. And then as she does this move, I would just push the spacing on these shadow elements a little bit more. Right now they kind of feel very even. So if she's kind of doing this kind of, and then just imagine like an explosion, and you just have these things go out and then settle in. So instead of an even spacing outwards, where it's just sliding out, you could have like this, almost just a frame where they show up, hold a little bit before almost just exploding outwards. Just get that really nice big explosion of speed. Or if you want the kind of like what would be a good, that haze effect where it's like through the scene, then you could add a little shake and vibration in there where it goes out, changes, and then goes out again. So there's almost like a little reversal in here. You could add that, but it's still kind of this outward explosion. And then I would just time the shadow marionettes so that as this happens here, hide her geometry right there. So this is invisible. Off. And then when she appears here, turn the visibility of this one off. The others can stay on for a little bit longer, but turn this one off to kind of show that she's erupted from this one. And then as she jumps here, to show a little bit more force into the landing, try having this leg, I'm going to exaggerate this, don't go this far. Have that leg come out here to contact. So again, don't go this far. So that way when she comes to a stop, the leg comes in through here, and we get that feeling of the leg kind of sticking out and then catching her weight as her weight keeps going. Versus right now what happens is her leg and her knee and her hips all lock into this angle and then just slide forward, which gives no friction to this movement. No force. It just kind of feels like she's hitting the pose on an ice rink and then sliding forward. So by letting that leg reach out a little bit more first and then slow down, you'll get that feeling that it's trying to catch the weight of her body. This is a nice foot motion right there. So like that, the way the heel kind of pushes up here, that's what I was mentioning earlier. That kind of feeling. Now here, just watch that things don't start moving all at the same time. So for example, the hands are moving very quickly on this frame. So is the foot, so is the head. everything kind of starts moving very quickly at the same time. Try to offset that. So maybe the arms start moving fast, then the head, then the foot. And then here, you could probably get this foot kind of contacted a little sooner. That way, when she goes into this, it's not quite so much of a pop. And then just push the spacing of the hips. They're easing out very slowly. Really pop that out. So it'll have a little ease at the beginning, but then just really go all out with it. And then go into a hang time. Right now it's just kind of slowly raising. And then as the spin happens, just make sure that the legs drag back to where they were pointing before. This will help to add to that spin. And then it'll add contrast when that leg then straightens out, and I would probably just straighten out all the way there. So that here you get almost like a nice straight. And then as she lands, think of the bouncing ball. Let those hips really come down quick before easing into the contact or the down pose there. And watch your spacing here. It feels like the hips kind of almost stop and then lurch forward. Yeah, right. Where is it? Oh no, it's the leg. That's what's causing it. It's the leg. The leg just kind of jumps forward right here. It goes fast, stops, and then fast again. So just watch that leg there. Yeah. So those would be my main notes for you. Hopefully that helps. And if you have any other questions on that, definitely let me know. Yeah. And then in terms of, let's say this was a game animation, the only other note that I would have is if you could add some variation to these first 4 swings. Right now it's kind of just 1, 1, 1, 1. It's the same kind of swing, just mirrored. And if you could kind of have like 1 across, and then 1 up, and then 1 down. So it's kind of, even if it's the same timing, it just feels like there's slight variations to them. That'll just kind of make that combo feel a little bit more visually interesting. And then if you can also adjust the speed of them ever so slightly, so one's a little faster, one's a little slower, one's bigger, one's smaller, it'll just kind of make that stand out a little bit more. So yeah, I hope that helps. If you have any questions on that, definitely let me know. All right. So jumping back into this, the next thing I want to do is animate the clavicles. And the clavicles are very simple. They are very simple, and yet they add so much. They are so important. So basically, when you're animating clavicles, all it is that the arm, the clavicle, goes forward when the arm goes forward, back when the arm goes back, up when the arm goes up, and down when the arm goes down. That's pretty much it. So, for example, here the arm is going down and hanging straight down. Also kind of in a neutral stance. So I'll bring that back here. Let's find the most extreme moment here. Let's say about there. Clavicle goes back, arm goes up. So this is where some people will kind of get it a little off, where as the arm goes back, it's technically raising back up. It's pivoting upwards. So that clavicle will go up. It's not just pointing down. Even though the arm is technically pointing like downwards at a 45-degree angle, it's still raising up from the previous pose. It is for games? Nice. That's awesome. It's a cool combo. So this goes forward and down, and then back there. So pretty much this. Now let's make sure. Rotate Y. Oh, I didn't copy that to that. There we go. That's pretty much it. So it's kind of this up and down, or forward, back. The rotate Y is just going to be forward, back. Whereas the rotate Z, this is the up and down, is going to have this little bit of a bounce to it. And that's simply because of it has to go down on each passing moment. There we go. And all of a sudden that shoulder looks so much more alive. Now I could add some breakdowns in here, which I probably should. So for example here, that arm is going to still be up a little bit more. I could probably exaggerate that just a little bit. Also going to be a little bit more forward. We're coming down. And then, let's see. Let's offset these curves just ever so slightly. And it comes up. Holds. So, just going to keep that up a little bit longer. Ease that a little bit more there. And even here, I don't think I need to raise it that much more there. Keep it simple. Clavicles really don't need to be that complex. So, something along those lines. There you go. Do the other arm. So, arm is back, clavicle is back, up a little bit. Now the up, I'm going to readjust once I get the passing pose in place here. So, let's get that arm where it's going to be at its lowest, right around here. Maybe actually right around there. Getting that forward, and then it'll be low again right around here. Okay. Perfect. Okay. A bit further. Just through. Then right around here. Gonna have to be back up. Forward. Okay. So with that, I can start cleaning up my curves. Super Mario 3 World had amazing music. It's probably one of my favorite video game soundtracks. So good. Okay. There we go. Let's see how this feels. A little high. So let's take my rotate Z. Right here. This is feeling a little high. If that's too high, this is probably most likely too high. I can also just kind of lower it all globally so that we keep those shoulders relaxed. There we go. We've got the clavicle. I think I could push the translation on her feet. Give a little bit more of a kick. Get that high energy in there. Okay. Let's add a little bit of rotate Z to the head. So for this, I basically just want to have a little kind of sway to the head. Not much, but enough. Now I could do that with the world space, but I'm going to end up doing that with just an offset instead. So, for example, from one contact to the next, I'm not going to have it mirror. So it's not going to be back and forth, side to side. What I want is kind of it straightens and then it goes to the side here, like that. So even just this helps a lot. But let's see if we can add a little bit more of a hold to this. So it just has a little bit more visual interest in terms of the spacing. Like that. It holds and then kind of goes through. So with that, I've got the curve. Let's see what happens if I offset it. That feels a little off there. Let's try a little bit more the other way. Nope. So what was happening there, even like before I let it play, was I could see that it was starting to counter the body motion so that the head would kind of freeze and then move. Let's go one. That kind of feels good. Feels like it's overlapping the body just a little bit. That feels too much. That one was like, it wasn't quite overlapping, it just felt like it was countering. There we go. Something like that. Now, this is where we can also start getting some really nice quick animation in here. So for example, the head, the rotate Y of the head, will follow the rotate Y of the body. It's sympathetic. Or in this case, that's rotate X. So I can just copy that curve, go to the head. This is why I like to animate with the head in world space. And let's double check our rotation. Okay, rotate Y. Let's paste that in. And what we're going to get is the head rotating with the body. Which is nice, but I don't want it to rotate as much, so I'll tone it down. Like that. Now we get a little bit of that motion in the head. Maybe it's a little too much. Keep it subtle. And then I can offset it. Maybe 2 frames. Create a little overlap. Which way do I like more? Yeah, I like this way. Okay. Done. Okay. So, now, we've been talking about it for a long time. We need that rotation X, that forward lean to the body, or else this is going to always look very stiff. So how do I get that in? Well, I could try to overlap everything manually, which would work, or I'm going to take my translate Y, my up and down. Let's copy that, and I'm going to paste it onto my rotate X. Like so. Just get rid of all the extra keys there. Bring this back into place. I probably want the body leaning forward. Okay. So what this is going to give me is a little bit of that. Oh, sneeze. It's going to give me that forward and back. And it's going to match with the up and down of the body. And Tiki, hello! How's it going? We're just at the kind of tail end of the blocking for the Zelda walk. All we really have left is some polish, really. So right now I'm just kind of adding a little bit of a forward tilt to the body. Maybe let's push this a little bit more. Let's see how that feels. Okay. Now it's a little abrupt. I'll probably just clean it up a little bit. Make it a little bit more smooth. Avoid the big changes. Just soften it up. Something like that. I think maybe... Let's try putting it 2 frames the other way. And this camera got changed, so let's put that back to the side there. So, not quite. Now I'm getting a little bit of a hitch in there. So let's just offset a little, maybe 1 frame. Just softening it up here. The rotations, I don't want them to be hard and fast like the rest of the animation. It should just be nice and soft, or else the character will feel like they're banging their head on something. Still interesting curves, but not nearly as extreme. Okay. Feels like the character's being dragged back. Link update. Oh, geez, you're fast. Oh, man. So for anyone who doesn't know, Artstuff just updated the Link rig based on a few things that I requested. Oh, geez. I was expecting like maybe in a week, something like that, it might get updated. No, gee, that is awesome. See, another reason. Now restart it. No, actually, all I'll have to do, since I referenced these into my shot, is once I download the link rig. There we go. I just have to update the reference, and then I'm gonna have all those extra controls in, and it'll be perfect. So I just offset this forward lean, so now she leans forward as she kind of pushes forward as well. This kind of gives that feeling of motion to the body versus like as she's moving forward, her body's dragging back, which was how it was feeling originally. So it's very slight. I could probably tone this down even. Just, I want to feel it, not really see it. There we go. So let's actually increase our frame range here. So I also need to add some rotation to the head. So I wonder if I can take this curve. Yeah, let's take this one. It's a little softer. No, I'm gonna take the hip curve. It's gonna be harsher, but I'd rather be able to keep it closer to what the body is doing. So copy that once again, go to the head. Let's go to my rotate X, paste. Let's bring it back into place there. Okay, and really focus on what's happening with the hips and the head. So what I want is as the hips come down here, the head should move down. So it's right there, 2 frames maybe. So it comes down and then we get that offset. There we go. So now we have the up and down of the head. Let's actually look at it here. So at this point, we've pretty much got both walks in place. And the nice thing with this is that we have both walks. Your animation work in all view? Yes. So no matter what angle, these walks will work nicely. So the big thing that I wanted to do with this, which I think I've achieved, is getting both walks to be different. You'll notice that they walk in different steps. So like, if you watch how their feet line up, they're not walking both on 12s, 12 frame, 12 frame, 12 frame contacts. There's this slight offset. So right here, they're both contacting, but by the next step, when Link contacts, she's on her passing pose. When Link contacts again, she's not even there. Like, there's this slight offset. This gives a more natural feeling to the walk so that they don't just feel like they're marching in time. But they are walking at exactly the same speed. This way, if I have to have them walk for, well, let's say 500 frames, I don't know if I'll have enough memory for this. Let's turn off CPU. So if they have to walk for 500 frames, they're walking slowly. There's going to be no problem. They will never deviate from that unless I add that in myself. So it's not, if I have a long shot and they have to walk side by side, I'm not going to have Link that's a mile ahead while Zelda is lagging behind. They're walking in time, but differently. So with that gives me a lot of freedom to exaggerate and put things in myself versus fighting the animation. Like if I need Zelda to walk a little faster, well, I just have to speed it up a little bit. If I need it to walk a little slower, slow it down a bit. Versus manually, every time I bring these into a shot, oh shoot, she's always faster. Now I have to make it slower by default and then make it even slower after. It's a pain. Zelda has some updates too. Nice. Okay, I'm definitely updating these right after this stream here. Now, the other thing with these, let's go back to our 100 frames. The other thing with both of them is that I animated them differently because I wanted to showcase two different workflows. With Link, I animated a little bit more pose to pose. Not entirely, but mostly pose to pose. This allowed me to really get the core poses I wanted and then work from there. With Zelda, I animated her in a layered approach, which gives me a lot more freedom to polish things up very quickly and get certain things done. But as we saw kind of midway through, you can run into moments where you animated the hips just the way you want. You animate the feet just the way you want. And they don't quite line up. So we have to make sacrifices or variations to accept both of them. But it made it much easier to match their speed by animating her in the layered method. If I was trying to do pose to pose, trying to make sure she kept that exact speed the whole time might have been extremely difficult. But yeah, we've got our walk. There we go. Now there is a lot of polish I still want to do. I'll probably save that for another stream. So I know I've done some polish on shots before, but I kind of want to do a really in-depth polish demo for everyone on, for example, how would I polish this? Adding this nice cloth here. So as he's walking, we get this effect. Animating the hair, animating the belt pouches, and ways we can simplify and speed up these types of animations. So I'll probably save that for Monday's stream. I'm actually really excited to do that, especially for Link, his tunic here. That's going to be so much fun to try and pose that out and get that to just have that awesomeness in there, because just the way it deforms. Usually I'm not a fan of cloth rigs because the deformations tend to be iffy, I guess you could say. But this one, like that deformation right there, the way it kind of curls around, it just feels so good. So I'm actually really excited to try and get this in here and see how that adds that extra layer in there. I also need to polish things up, make sure all my arcs are correct, make sure I don't have any little pops or wiggles. Link definitely has a lot more than she does in his knees, mostly. That shouldn't take too long to fix. But yeah, we've got the walks. So hopefully that was interesting. I'm actually really happy with how hers turned out. I think I could maybe tone down her side-to-side motion. She still feels like she sways a little bit. But at the same time, I kind of like it. I can probably push his arms as well. They're feeling a little stiff. Just loosen up the elbows. Basically what I'm going to end up doing is, once I refresh my brain, and this is something I always recommend any of my students do, and anyone, if you're looking at your shot like this, I've been looking at this for close to 4 hours now, just under 4 hours, and that can be a long time to look at something and like try to keep track of everything you're doing, which means that as I'm looking at Zelda's animation, I'm not looking at it for what it really is. I'm looking at it for all the different things I've done along the way in these last 4 hours. And I need to refresh my brain. I need to step away from this at some point, refresh my brain, and then come back and try to see it for what it truly is, how it actually moves and feels. And then when I do that, I just write down a list of notes. I've got a notepad right here. I always have one. I just write everything down, everything I notice. Like, oh, there's a knee pop on a certain frame. She's swaying too much. Maybe there's too much rotation in the hips, or the hip rotation isn't quite right. Like, I'm noticing the rotate Y in the hips, it freezes a little bit. It kind of holds, like right here. That rotate Y, it just, there's something about it that feels off. So I need to go in here and really frame through, figure out what's causing that to happen. I'll write it down. I'll do the same for Link. I'll make a list for him. Everything I need to change to make his animation really read clearly. And then from there, I can make another pass. Instead of just trying to like noodle and pick at all of these separate things while my eye for the shot is not really as clear as it should be. So as an animator, as animators, we want to take breaks. Not because it's just healthy for us, that's a very important reason too, but because it's going to make your shots better in the long run. And it doesn't have to be a long break, like 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, enough to get up, stretch your legs, grab something to eat, something like that.